Dipuo Mthembu is the president of the South African Royal Kingdoms Organization. Ma'am, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405.
Good evening to you.
What exactly are you campaigning for? I mean, I'm presuming a traditional leader kind of campaign?
Actually, we are campaigning for the land and the dignity of our communities and our kings and queens.
When you say the land, do you mean the land that was taken from people? Do you mean the whole country? What do you mean?
What I mean is that the land was taken from kings and queens, not from politicians, not from the government. If you look at the history, the first war was in 1659, the first Khoi War, and the last one was in 1906, the Mbambata Rebellion. And then the kings decided to set up the ANC. The ANC was actually formed by kings with one mandate to bring back the land. And the ANC failed to do that. They failed, they betrayed the kings and the traditional leaders. More so, they marginalized them. So, at that time, kings couldn't read and write. But today, we are educated. We can read and we can write. So why must we send anybody when we can do it for ourselves? So we are here to say, here we are. We're not going to send anybody anymore. We are here.
Are you contesting across the entire country or just in one or two?
No. We actually, because the system, the IE system was giving us a problem.
Right.
As you know, we even went to court.
Yeah.
We were one of those that went to court and asking them to open up the system. And we were dismissed. So we managed to go nationally and 4 regions and 1 province.
Okay. When you say you want the land back and you want it for the kings and queens, do you mean for them to administer on behalf of the people? So I suppose like the Ngunyama Trust, for example, which I think people understand, or do you mean actually as their personal property?
No, as their personal property. That's what we mean. Because the Native Land Act of 1913, interpreted in the court of law, if your land was taken before 1913, then you cannot claim. All the kings, their lands were taken before 1913. Codesa, kings were not part of the Codesa. Even today, kings don't have the minutes. How can you be talking about a land issue and you don't include the owners of the land?
So I just want to understand this correctly. The owners of the land are the kings and queens rather than the people who lived on the land?
The kings, the queens, and their communities.
Okay. So if you got the land back,
yeah.
Would that mean then that you would allow your communities to live on the land, use the land, maybe sell the land? Or would you mean that it would actually be up to the particular royal person to decide what to do?
Actually, if you look at before colonialization, the life that we lived as Africans was far much better. We didn't have shacks. No one went to bed hungry because the king would actually have a demarcated land that would be worked, and the king will actually give his community land to have cattle, to farm. We used to build our own houses, so we lived a better life. So colonialization really brought poverty. We are seeing today people going to bed without food, but we didn't know that as Africans.
So what then, if you had an ideal South Africa, what would that look like? So kings and queens would be in charge of the land, and then how would the economy be ordered? Because, I mean, the land is the economy too.
The ideal situation is that we want a democratic monarchy.
Okay.
Now, if you look at all the rich states, they're a democratic monarchy. Look at UK, we were a British colony, and they are very well off, and they're a monarchy.
So you would keep the constitution, and where I'm going with this, let me tell you where I'm going.
I want you
so
to go there.
Later of ambushing you.
No, you're not ambushing me. I'm very happy to be here. You see, I'm even folding my arms. I'm comfortable.
Don't throw the water. The Constitution says that all are equal before the law.
Yeah.
You accept that?
I do.
Okay. So that then comes to the question, if the land was taken from a family in 1913, for example.
Before then.
Or before then, why must it go to a member of a royal family rather than the family it was taken from?
The land was taken from the kings and the queens and their communities. It was not taken from the...
It was taken from the communities too, is my point.
That's what I'm saying. The kings, the queens, and the communities. Don't forget the communities. They play a very important role here. So we are saying
I'd
it
like to
must
hope
go
so.
back.
Yeah.
It must go back
Okay.
to the kings and the queens and their communities. Remember all those rebellions,
Yeah.
all those war lands. The kings were fighting with their communities.
No, sure.
Yes. It was a community and the king thing. We have customary law. Within the customary law, all of those laws are there. We can't be operating with Roman Dutch law. We're not Romans. It doesn't speak to us. We cannot have. Remember, when you are an African and you leave the continent of Africa, they call you a diaspora. It's a slogan now. It's Africa and its diaspora.
Yeah.
Why can't we say Europe and its diaspora? Why can't we say Asia and its diaspora? And why is it that the land of South Africa, 87% of it is sitting with European and Asian diasporas? There's something that's not right there.
87% of it isn't anymore. It was obviously after 1913, but I accept your greater point. I'm not going to
Yeah.
argue with you on it.
You know?
So you told me that you're based primarily in Vereeniging. Where are you expecting your support mainly to come from? And I mean, obviously it's hard to fight our elections. Are you expecting a lot of support?
You know, actually in this elections, our main aim was to actually make you guys aware that we exist. And we've done that. Yeah. So the results, when they come in, if we make it, we're happy. If we didn't make it, we're happy. I'm here live, and people know that the kings are now doing it for themselves, which was our purpose. We've achieved it.
There are other political parties that also contest in the same space, and let me explain what I mean. So, for example, Umkhonto weSizwe also is strongly advocating for the rights of traditional leaders. In fact, they want no constitution at all, and they want traditional leaders to be represented in their own house and parliament. So that would be them making laws without being elected, which is interesting. There are other political parties. I think at one point, some members of Contralesa even were looking at forming their own political parties. Are you a member of Contralesa, by the way?
No, Contralesa is actually a branch of the ANC.
Okay, I know some people who disagree with that, but okay.
No, they know.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get to is, if someone agrees with you, there are other parties for them to vote for. So why should they vote for you and not for that party?
You know, I like that you spoke about Umkhonto weSizwe.
Yeah.
I said to you the ANC was formed by kings.
Yeah.
So is Umkhonto weSizwe. They were warriors together with the kings. As kings today, we're surprised that the warriors are now a party. So it informs us that actually the political space in South Africa has really gotten out of hand. It really has, because people don't know who they are anymore. And if you want to actually build a stable society, first of all, people must know who they are.
I don't know if you can tell people who they are. I don't know if you can dictate to them. I think people themselves do know who they are. And they may be the product of a family that speaks different languages, where you have children who, grow up in a house that speaks Venda and Zulu in Meadowlands and Soweto. I hear this phrase, people don't know who they are, and I understand that. I mean, I think it must be tragic to be a grandparent and not be able to communicate with your grandchild. And we're one of those societies where that happens. But I think to say to people, you don't know who you are, I think if you say that to a young person, I think they might say, I know exactly who I am.
They might say that, but if they knew who they are, we wouldn't be seeing all these infightings.
They wouldn't be seeing all of these?
Infightings.
Okay, all right.
I mean, let's talk about, I don't want to talk about people, but if you look at why is it that when kings decide that they want to do it for themselves, everyone in their manifesto now, they begin to talk about kings. They're now going to visit all the traditional leaders all of a sudden. Why is that? We've been having, this is the 7th national elections. You've been on news for quite some time. I'm sure in all the 7 elections, it is for the first time that you've heard manifestos talking to traditional leaders like now.
Probably, actually.
Yeah.
That's
so
a very strong point.
Why is it?
Yes.
Is it because they realize that if kings can come together and unite, because remember, kings are there permanently. They're not there for a term. The reason why we don't have development in the country is because the political leaders are there for a term for 5 years and then they leave. So they can loot as much as they want and then they go. But the monarchy is there for a lifetime.
You get bad kings?
That's why we're saying a democratic monarchy, because it's the 50-50. Okay. The Prime Minister and the Parliament, they make sure that the king is not abusing the community, and the king is making sure that the politicians are not looting. So it's a very balanced situation. Yes.
I must ask, and I hope you'll forgive me, because I don't normally talk about what people are wearing because I'm so badly dressed unless someone actually tells me what to wear, which they do when I'm on TV, thank goodness. But I noticed that you and your colleagues, I don't know if you prefer comrades, are all wearing the same...
We're not politicians. Okay. No, we're not.
Are all wearing the same thing. I think it's actually an American camouflage, I'm not sure. Can I ask why the choice? Is it a sign that you're warriors?
If you looked at my pledge, the national pledge, I was wearing a traditional gear. If you look at the ballot sheet, I'm the only one wearing a traditional gear. We are making a statement. We are traditional leaders. The reason why now we're wearing the combat, yesterday we were wearing a different color. We're making a statement again that we are going back to being the warriors that we were. We're not going to spill blood this time. We're going to do it via the ballot box. That's a statement.
It is. Thank you. I've learned from talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.